Our next speaker is Carlos Ron. Carlos is Vice Minister of Foreign Relations for North America, and he also currently serves as President of the Simon Bolivar Institute for Peace and Solidarity Among Peoples. As a diplomat in the past, he has been Venezuela's Chargé d'Affaires in the United States and has represented Venezuela before the United States of America and the Federative Republic of Brazil. He was an advisor at the Office of the Presidential International Relations, coordinator of the research program on regional integration and multilateral agreements at the Miranda International Center, very relevant to today's topic. And he graduated in Latin American Studies from Rutgers University, US, and also holds a postgraduate degree from the University of Brasilia in Brazil. Carlos, it's always such a great honor to have you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Radhika. It's my pleasure always, and thank you for this opportunity. I think this is a very rich topic that we have before us, and I would just want to add, a couple of thoughts or reflections upon two specific issues that I think we should go over when we think about the Monroe Doctrine and its importance and relevance for us today. Next year will be the bicentennial, as we've already said, established. And it must serve us as a reminder that this confrontation of two conflicting projects has been going on for 200 years and will probably last much more longer. It doesn't seem to me that we can think about this project having, or this confrontation somehow having an easy solution or easy resolution, because basically you're talking about two visions for the same area and two visions with different interests and different perspectives. At the time, even in 1823, when our republics were fighting for their independence, there was the perception that this stance taken by the United States would somehow be positive, or somehow be a support for the independence movement, which in a way, there was some importance in the statement, but it wasn't the reason. The reason behind it was not that the U.S. was really in favor of these independence, but rather, ironically, because of what we see going on today, but rather it was an attempt to curb Russia's advances in the continent as it was coming down from Alaska to the West Coast and possibly move further down. So again, it was something that it was related to the U.S. interest and the U.S. vision over the region, and somehow was taken up as if it was in the interest of all of the countries here. Now, the thing is that we're talking about two distinct projects. The U.S. project, of a society that defined itself as the city up on the hill. That idea of U.S. exceptionalism as a right to sort of impose or promote its model over the rest of the region, and the other one, a true emancipation process that was very complex. That it began as an elite trying to break off from Spanish rule so that they can have more control over their own markets, but then it really became after 1814 a real process of social transformation. Once there was a shift from the mentality of those leaders in the revolution to start incorporating issues such as class, race within this framework. And really, with the interest of achieving emancipation and achieving a whole type of, a whole new society, a different society. If we look at the people that had to do with this process, such as Thomas Jefferson in 1786, he writes this very interesting letter when he's describing the region and when he had been asked about Spain and the conflicting revolutions. And Jefferson says, "Our confederacy must be viewed as the nest from which all America, North and South, is to be peopled." So you see this centrality as the U.S. being the nest, the place where everything starts. he continues, we should take care to not think it for the interest of that great continent to press too soon on the Spaniards. Those countries cannot be in better hands, meaning Spanish, the colonies or fighting for the independence were in the better hands as because we're in Spanish hands. Those countries cannot be in better hands. My fear, he says, is that they are too feeble to hold them till our population can be sufficiently advanced to gain it from them piece by piece. Now, why do I make this point? Because, when we discuss imperialism today, when we bring these issues up, there's always this tendency as to minimize the role of U.S. imperialism, as to minimize the meaning, as to think, well, this is maybe a conspiracy theory, this is something that is not as relevant or as important anymore. But it's a long-term project, and it's a long-term project that had already been set out and had already been explained by the forefathers of the U.S. Since the beginning. And in the same way, when Bolivar writes the Jamaica letter, then he makes a statement where he says, where you can contrast the view of the region. I, says Bolivar, more than any other, wish to see America form the greatest nation of the world, not so much for its extension and wealth as for its liberty and glory. Meaning he's envisioning there a social project, not the concentration of wealth, as Jefferson explains, by taking piece by piece, was actually more of a social project. This conflict is still ongoing. This is the conflict that has defined relations within the whole continent throughout all these 200 years, and will continue to do so. And I say this because there's ups and downs in the relationship. There's, every so often we change governments in the region, and one may get closer or further away from the U.S., but it's still the same view that is held from Washington towards our region. In the case of Venezuela right now, for example, we have there's a Democrat administration, which is in a way not as vocal and as aggressive as the Trump administration was with the imposition of unilateral coercive measures or sanctions, or they're called. But at the end of the day, they still haven't lifted what the Trump administration did. I mean, there's the U.S. system continues to live with even the other administration's policies, just because at the end of the day, it continues that framework of seeing Latin America as something that should be part of the U.S. project for the region and for this global project as well. No structural projects came out of the Los Angeles Summit of the Americas, because it's really when you see that, continuing with this idea of the Monroe Doctrine, what the United States really wants is not to build Latin America, it's not to create structures, it's not to improve those problems that they say they want to address, like migration, poverty, and all these things. What they really want to do is maintain access, direct access to Latin American resources, especially now in a conjuncture where there is conflict in Europe, there's the possibility of conflicts in the Indian Pacific, and they need to consolidate their capability of accessing our resources on this hemisphere. So basically, what they wanted to do, or what they were pushing for, is a meeting where they tried to align the countries, but it sort of backfired, because there was no negotiation, there was no real conversation with the region. It was just, we're here, we're opening this meeting, so you guys should come and sit with us and so forth. There was no dialogue, and that's why you see that the CELAC meeting was much more successful before, because even in countries that had conservative governments and did not have the same position as some of the more progressive, even revolutionary governments have, there was a coincidence in some issues, such as the realizing that the current model, the current systemic model, is not able to solve the problems that we have as a region, and that some of these countries didn't get the vaccines like Canada or the United States did, despite that, they feel somehow ideologically related. We couldn't face some of the, we don't have the same positions, or there's no way that the countries south of Mexico can have the same position as the U.S. and Canada with regards to issues such as climate change, because our realities are quite different and our solutions are quite different. So at the end of the day, you see that they saw in the select meeting the necessity of coming together and trying to find common solutions. So again, this just shows that this ongoing struggle between the two projects is there, and of course will remain there for a long time. Just finally, the one other point I would like to make on this issue is U.S. imperialism is taking new forms, as everything in the world takes new forms. So the Monroe Doctrine is still alive as part of the project, but we might be seeing it expressed in different ways. And I think a couple of things that I think we should be looking for, and that we should be aware, and we should denounce, and we should try to fight against, is, for example, the divisionism that is trying to be put forth in our region. And I say divisionism, especially within the left and progressive and revolutionary movements, as they try to box them in different tiers. And we've seen this before when President Chavez and President Lula were both in government. You would have this discourse of the existing lefts. There's the good left and the bad left. And I'm sure the way the region is realigning again with a more progressive tide, as it's called, we're going to be seeing more of this, and we're also going to be seeing more penetration. We're already seeing these attempts in countries such as Nicaragua, where the NGOs funded by the U.S. are trying to capture discourse from the left, discourse from progressives on issues like women's rights, on issues like housing and other forms of organization. It's part of the weapons used in a hybrid war, is precisely to use all these things where we don't expect, generate confusion and try to break off the unity that is sustaining left and progressive governments. So this is something I think that must be denounced, something I think that we must be made aware of, and I think it also shows us that this ongoing 200-year-old conflict is still very present, still very alive, and we're still, building our alternative. We're still, confronting this. We, as part of the revolutionary governments and movements, I think we have our own road to build. We have our own project to build, a project of sovereignty and a project of dignity. Defend the sovereignty of our countries and defend them, making sure the dignities of our peoples are respected, with their rights and their living conditions guaranteed. Thank you very much.
I'm Michael Hudson. I'm appearing here for the International Manifesto Group. If you like this video and ones like it, please subscribe. For more information, go to the address on the screen.